Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg. Mahalo for tuning in to Island Focus. Today's program is the second in a two-part series about the condition of our representative democracy in the United States. Are the current forms of community engagement sufficient? It seems we might need to radically change some things in order to protect the conditions of our society and sustain a democracy where everyone thrives. We're taping this show remotely today so you can meet the people who are working with their organizations to reestablish belief in our government systems. Thank you for joining us on Island Focus. Mahalo for being with us today, Roberta. Can you share with us a little bit about your role as chair of the Hawai'i Neighborhood Board, and what are some of the issues that you've faced as a community?
Well, I think that the Neighborhood Board is a very important vehicle. It provides an opportunity for the community members to provide input and to participate in the decisions of government. You know, we can identify and communicate about issues that affect the neighborhood, and we can consider possible solutions and communicate those to the appropriate persons and agencies.
Now, it's a volunteer position, right? I mean, you're elected by the community as a chair, and also, how many members are on the board?
Well, we have a 15-member board with 2 seats vacant. We have a number of long-time experienced board members, but we also have a handful of brand new board members. So we have a very active and productive board.
So when we're talking about democracy and with a question mark, right? Is it live and well? It appears as if the neighborhood boards are actively engaged in making changes and things better for the community.
Well, we try to. We listen to the issues that citizens bring to our attention, and we try to work with elected officials and the city and county to address some of the issues that they bring to our attention. Our neighborhood board feels very responsible for protecting the Kaiwi coastline, and we helped the community to successfully get the state to designate the Kaiwi coastline as a natural scenic byway. We've also established some barriers along Vavamalu Beach with boulders to try to prevent the incursion of off-road vehicles on the sand dunes to protect the natural fauna and flora of that area.
And so if we're looking at democracy, quote unquote, as needing a citizen engagement, what do you find are probably the biggest challenges to having people come out and express their concerns?
Well, Lyla, in our neighborhood, we don't have any problem having people come out and express their opinion. We have a very active neighborhood. People are very engaged. They want to maintain the quality of life that they have in the neighborhood, and we are a very strong, intact neighborhood. A recent example of this has been the current issue of reapportionment for the state of Hawaii. The initial proposed maps that were shared with the community split Hawaii Kai between 2 different House and Senate districts. The community was very concerned and disappointed. So we lobbied very strongly for keeping Makapu'u Point as the natural geographic boundary between Windward Oʻahu and East Honolulu. The most recent adopted maps for the House districts did restore Makapu'u Point as the boundary. And so the configuration of our House district is very similar to what it was. So I think that was due to the community's active voice in getting the commission to change the maps.
And this actually was a collaborative effort with other areas as well and other neighborhood boards, because if Hawaii Kai was affected, so were other communities.
We united in our opposition to the initial plans. And there are 33 neighborhood boards across the state of Oʻahu, and that is a tremendous network of communities coming together for a rally at the state capitol, voicing our concerns as a community. And I thought we were very successful in raising our voices to participate in this process.
So if the neighborhood board is listening to community concerns and wants to make a change, how does that work? What's the process?
We discuss the item, we take a position, we'll vote on it. We can pass a resolution and send that resolution to elected officials to express our concerns, or we can write a letter indicating that the neighborhood board has taken a vote on this issue, and this is what we are recommending, or this is what we would like to see addressed. All of the elected officials from our area are invited to our neighborhood board meetings, and most of them do attend.
So the neighborhood board is a very intrinsic part of the government process, actually, not only with state and county officials, but also with other agencies that have to do with the well-being of our communities.
That's absolutely right. The Honolulu Police Department and Honolulu Fire Department and even the schools in the area send representatives to our meetings.
As we wrap up our conversation for today, what counsel can you give to people to just stay engaged and keep participating in the process?
I think it's very important that every citizen have their voice heard. And in every neighborhood, there are organizations that will help them to raise their voice and unite behind particular issues. And not only are there organizations for them to go to, they should also get involved. They should run for a neighborhood board seat and or get involved and join these organizations. So not just go to speak in front of them, but actually to get involved. I think that community voice is so important, and we can be effective if we're united.
And the more people we have doing this, the more the merrier, but definitely the more powerful and louder the voice is. And it is one of the foundations of a representative democracy. Continue to speak out for everyone participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyla.
We've just spoken with Roberta Mayer, Chair of the Hawai'i Neighborhood Board. Thank you for being with us today, Brian. Give us a little more information on what it is you do.
The Civil Beat Law Center for the Public Interest is set up to primarily help folks out with access to government records, open meetings, courtroom proceedings, things that are related primarily to government transparency.
And when we talk about government transparency, isn't that a bit of an oxymoron?
I would hope not, but at the same time, I think a lot of people feel that way because there is a lot of secrecy in government, and the agencies and many people don't recognize that government records are the people's records, and that when citizen boards are meeting and talking about changing policy, they're doing that in the context of being representatives of the general public, and that they need to be available to the public and be able to explain to the public what it is that they're doing.
So does your organization advocate for an individual or for an issue?
It's a mix. So a lot of times we have people who come to us and they explain to us, I'm having this problem getting access to information and I don't know what to do. Other times we see that there's an issue that's going on in the community, and we'll reach out and proactively either initiate a records request or reach out to an agency and say, hey, why aren't you providing more information about this?
It just seems that right now, so much is being revealed. People's character, decisions, what the country is thinking about. How can you help us navigate through that?
I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but and what's going on, but transparency is a huge part of it, particularly when things are happening where perhaps someone is doing something wrong in government and they're doing things in the dark. And if the public doesn't have access, then no one's going to see what's happening. And transparency brings a light to that. And whether that's in the context of environmental issues or whatever it is, everything that government does, there is an opening for folks to ask more questions and to get more involved and to find out what's going on.
Well, and it's a little bit ironic because the U.S. Constitution says we the people. Government for the people, by the people, with people. Our representative democracy is one of the most unique forms in the world, and yet we seem to be confused about the value of it.
And when you look at our public records law and our sunshine law in Hawaii, it has a wonderful preamble that talks about how government should be as open as possible and how important it is for the people to have access to information, because that's the only true check on government. We still run in secrecy with agencies and boards who are sometimes just trying to keep information from the public.
Do you think it's intentional, or is it because perhaps maybe members of the boards don't have information themselves that they feel confident enough?
That's a huge problem. I definitely think, and we see there's actually a few bills this session where part of it is to help the public, but part of it is also to help the boards. There's a requirement that, for example, that boards have these packets that they get when they start a meeting. And what we've found is that it's not just the public that's not getting access to this information, it's also the board members. They're not getting it till the last minute. And it makes it so that they can't really do the job that they're intended to do.
Well, and if we consider that almost all boards and commissions are voluntary, people have either been appointed or they've applied because they want to be of service. They want to participate, which is what is expected in a representative democracy. What might you say to folks who say, well, I don't want to do that. That's not my responsibility. It seems that the same people are applying and reapplying, and we need to share the wealth, I guess.
It's unfortunate that we can't do boards the same way that we do jury service and really recruit people and encourage people that it's part of their civic duty to participate and to share your mana'o and to really bring yourself to these groups that are trying to develop policy for the entire state and trying to help move everyone forward.
So there seems to be the need for a lot of communication, for the board to understand what their role is and to have the information they need, but also for the public not to be so aggressive sometimes. I mean, we can be assertive. This is Hawaii, and I sit on a number of different nonprofit organizations. It dissuades someone from wanting to be in a volunteer leadership position when other people are yelling at you.
The one thing that I always say to folks is, the people that you're dealing with on the other side, you can't think of them as evil henchmen. You need to think of them as, like a lot of times they're just bureaucrats, or they're just people who are trying to do their job and trying to understand the same as you are what's going on. If you treat them with respect, then it will take you a lot further than if you don't.
And how amazing would that be? I mean, that the power of the people, with the people, by the people really would exist. Some parting words as we end our conversation today.
Yeah, I really would encourage folks to participate, to reach out, talk to anyone and everyone that you think can help you better understand government. And if you need to ask for records to do that, if you need to attend a meeting to do that, do it and find out what's going on for yourself. And if you ever have any difficulty with any of those, feel free to contact the Law Center.
Thank you very much. And what you're really saying is for us to be paying attention and acknowledge and accept that it is our responsibility to be involved.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time and for the work you do, and onward.
Thanks, Lyla.
You've just had the opportunity to meet Brian Black, Executive Director of the Civil Beat Law Center for the Public Interest. appreciate you being with us today, Donna.
Thank you for the opportunity to share information about the League of Women Voters of Hawaiʻi.
Tell us more, especially in this time of question. I have questions. Is our democracy in jeopardy?
Well, I like to think I'm an optimist. And where we are today is very different than where we were 100 years ago, or even 200 years ago, or even 50 years ago. There's change. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we've made tremendous strides in making government more responsive and more open than even what it was 20 years ago.
So when you look at the role that the League plays, is because on title it's a League of Women Voters, there's much more that you do that's around voting that may not culminate on the voting day.
Well, we do believe that voting is fundamental to democracy. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy, and we do that through education and litigation. We sponsor candidate forums, and we write pros and cons on ballot measures so that people will know how to vote on certain issues. And our second focus is advocacy. So we'll testify at all levels of government, especially when laws that may threaten democracy, and when those laws may pass or when our testifying doesn't work, we will sometimes go to court. So we do want to promote a representative, accountable, and responsive government. But yes, let me explain something about the name of the League of Women Voters. It's somewhat misnamed because as our democracy has changed, so has our membership, and so has what we do. We started out as a group of women, but now men since 1973 are members. And we may only say we're voters, but we encourage and invite anyone who's interested in government.
What kind of laws or what kind of proposals would threaten democracy that you would be paying attention to?
We find that there's a lot of disinformation out there. And so it helps when government can explain what is going on. I think it reassures all of the people in our community that what they're doing is for the best of our community. Whenever there's bills that may challenge or threaten that openness, the League will often speak out against it or for it.
And when we speak about government, it's so huge because there's so many departments and levels and responsibilities that my personal experience has been that some departments don't even know what other departments are doing. And even within a department, the personnel are not always informed. And so it's a huge communication opportunity as well as roadblocks there. How can you help us understand that?
Well, the League does study, and they're very much engaged in all levels of government. If anyone has questions, we're happy to answer them. And I know individuals are very busy. They work. They don't have time to follow bills. But we'd be happy to answer questions. They can always contact us individually or look on our website. And I also see the same thing with legislators. I mean, they look at thousands of bills in a very short period of time. And so we want to be sure that they're looking at the bills that are going to best help the community. So we will give them our take on it, our stand on them, and maybe that will sway their opinion. But I agree, there's a lot of work, but it's always been that way with government. I think we think that it's not working today, but government, again, has changed. Our society has changed over the years. And I think we're making progress overall. Sometimes we take a step back, but I think we're still moving forward.
What I hear you saying is that we are all government. We are all part of the system. And that when we don't do our part to ask questions, not just voting, but questions and being engaged, even in one issue, because we are busy and we have families and concerns, but we are part of the solution as well.
We are. And that's why, again, the League believes that voting is, and the power of the vote is fundamental to democracy. We saw a historic change in 2020. We had the most number of registered voters that Hawaii has ever seen, and we had a historic turnout too. And I think that's going to impact our 2022 elections, because legislators are looking at that and saying, oh my gosh, they may come out in those numbers, and if they don't like what I'm doing now, that could change.
I'm hoping we can transition our legislators and government people from looking at they, meaning us, to we.
I was lucky enough to sit on a number of interviews with our legislators, as the League has a program called Know Your Legislators. And so we interviewed them about their priorities and shared what League priorities are. And I came away very impressed that they were willing to listen. Some of them were holding community meetings. Granted, not everyone can attend those, but they heard the people. And they came back and told us that it changed their thinking. So we want to encourage more legislators to do that, to spend time with their constituents and find out what's important to them. One legislator said it totally threw out all of his priorities, and now he's focused on different ones.
Some parting words as we conclude our conversation today.
Well, the League of Women Voters wants to encourage people to vote. It's very important. And if they have any questions, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer questions or help them understand what the questions are.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Donna Oba, who is the Hawaii State President for the League of Women Voters. Thank you for being with us today on Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. On behalf of the Island Focus crew and the entire team at Ōlelo Community Media, aloha and malama pono. Let's do our best to do things right, to take care of each other in our island home. See you soon.